So tonight we have a special guest tonight, man. This brother's he started a lavish career from military, worked at NYP, he worked for the police department, fire department. He's an investor. He's invested in real estate and he also invests in stocks. So with further ado, Sammy Jammy, can you bring in our man Dewayne Kimbrough? What up, man?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Oh, there you go.
What's going on?
There you go. What's up, brother? How you feeling today, man?
Dewayne, how are you?
I'm good. Good. Nice to meet y'all. Glad to be here.
Nice to meet you, my brother. What's happening?
So can you bring people up to date, give a little background of your story and everything, so people can know who you are, and then we're gonna chop it up.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I was born down in Florida, Miami-Dade County, Florida, and then my family moved up to New York, probably about like in 1975. I was like 77. I was 5 years old. Moved up to New York. And then I went to school, private school, all in New York. And then from that point on, right out of school, I went straight to the military. Once I got out of service, I traveled all over Germany, did some time in Texas, then Seattle, Washington. And then from there, I moved back to New York, started working with the city, the medical examiner's office, then /NYPD. I collected evidence for the NYPD. Then I transferred over, took the fire department exam, transferred over to the fire department, did 10-year stint with the fire department, retired from there, kind of got an early retirement, retired from there. And then I started my real estate investing career.
That's what's up, man. Hey, anybody that confused you with Rick Ross? He's from Florida, brother. That Dade County. Like,
you know what?
Yeah.
Let me say this. And first of all, again, thank you so much for coming on. To me, it sounds like you had a plan. And I don't say that to minimize it or say it with simplicity. That's one of the hardest things it is for us to do. It doesn't seem like you just stumbled on those things. It looked like you had a genuine plan of how you wanted to just move and maneuver in your career. Where did that come from, and how can you advise other people to try to make similar choices?
Well, I definitely, I mean, you hit it right on the head. I definitely had a plan. I could say that from an early age, I kind of wanted to make sure that I got my work career out of the way early. So I kind of retired early enough. And I said to myself when I was a young kid that, gosh, what career can give me the quickest retirement? And upon doing the research, growing up in New York City, I was like, hey, if I work for the city in one of those uniform services there, it's 20 and out, and I could still relatively retire as a young man. I retired close. I was going on to 40 when I retired. So I wasn't even 40 when I retired. So, and I said, okay, once I did that, what's my second act? So I knew, from my father and my mother kind of disciplining me, that I knew that my second act was going to be entrepreneurship and having my own business, which is my real estate company that I have now. So I definitely had to have a plan without question.
Right. So let me ask you a question, Dwayne. So everybody want to be an entrepreneur and everybody want to start doing investment. Can you tell us about the first time you ever invested and walk us through for some of the people that want to get started just like you, but they don't know how, and a lot of people might just be scared. Can you walk us through the first time you ever invested in real estate?
Oh, absolutely. Well, what happened is that I kind of stumbled into it at first. The first time with the real estate thing, I was working with the city, and I said to myself, I wanted to get me a house, buy me a house down south in Atlanta, because at the time my brother was down there. So I said, I want to go ahead and get in a house, so when I retire, that I have a house, the house to move into once I retire, 20 years from now. But what ended up happening is that I had some family members that needed a place to stay because they moved down to Atlanta. And I said, okay, and I give people advice, try not to move in family if you can, But, I said, okay, like y'all. Exactly, right.
I don't want to finish the statement.
So I said, okay, y'all can move down there, and y'all pay the rent and pay whatever, I just want to cover my mortgage. I didn't really care about doing anything else. So I said, just pay the mortgage. I think the mortgage was like maybe $1,100. It was a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. They were paying I think at first they were paying less than $1,100. They were paying like $1,000. So I only had about $100 to come out of my pocket. So I was like, that's cool. And then so when as time grew on, with family being in your place, they kind of wanted the family discount, you know, and or I'll get you next week. Yeah, and then it got to a point to where it was like, hey, you know what? I ain't getting no money. Y'all gonna have to go. And you know, kind of it turned into a little spat. But at the end of the day, I kind of had to evict them. And then when I went, you know, I went through the whole process of evicting them. But then they ended up leaving. But while I was down there, I realized that, hey, there's other people out here. There's people here with serving evictions for, you know, complexes and multiple family homes. And I'm like, I'm just down here with my one little house trying to get my family out. And but it was kind of like at that point in time where I realized that, hey, this is an investment, you know. And I said, well, you know what? If I can do that with one, then I maybe need to get another one. And so that kind of like snowballed it for me, where I was like, okay, I'm an actual landlord now. I'm not just renting my house out or just letting somebody stay here. I'm an actual landlord. This could be a viable business. And that's when I started to study up on it more and just getting myself comfortable with it. And then eventually I ended up getting a really good tenant, and they stayed in the property, and they kept the property in great shape for almost 6 years, you know. Wow. And then at that point in time, I was kind of coming up on my retirement, and I said, you know what, I'm going to turn this into a full-fledged business. So I educated myself, figured out ways on how to get funding. Also, working in the city, you have your pension money that you can withdraw to use to put for a down payment for a home. So I was able to do some of that, and it just kind of just grew from there. So I went from that one property, and I was investing out of this. I was investing in Atlanta. Most of my real estate was in Atlanta. So it was like, all right, let me start somewhere where I know. And I have folks down there already, people who can watch the property, people who can, you know, help fix the property if things need to be done. I was still working as a fireman in New York, and I ended up with 2 more properties in Atlanta. But I had the right system. I had people to help me. So it kind of just took me from getting off the ledge and just going in at full blast to where I'm at right now.
There are a lot of people right now who have gotten into flipping houses. And like with anything else, I think people think that you can get rich quick. What are some of the things you warn people about when it comes to trying to be a real estate investor?
That's a great question. What I tell people is that slow and steady wins the race. I mean, I'm not a flipper. I don't flip homes. I fix them. We buy the homes, renovate them. We buy the homes, we rehab them, we rent them. You know, so it's a process called the BRRRR process. That if you're familiar with real estate, it's you buy it, you rehab it, you rent it, and then you refinance it. So you basically cashing the money out of what you put into it, but now you got a tenant in there, and they're renting the house, paying the mortgage, and then you're getting a return on your investment from that property. So that's the process that I use. I know people that do flipping, and that's great. But if you're doing flipping and even if you're using your cash or hard money, it's a much faster turnaround. So I mean, yeah, you can make a lot of money in flipping. I don't knock that. I flipped a few homes, but my bread and butter is pretty much buying the properties, holding them out, and renting them.
Gotcha.
So let me ask you a question. Do you put since you're out of state, do you put Section 8 tenants or any kind of program tenants, or do you have people that have regular jobs? What do you prefer?
Well, you know, you always prefer the regular job people, but Section 8's been working really great for me. I just was speaking to somebody about it. I used to shy away from it in the beginning, but as I've been getting familiar with it over the last year or so, it's really been working great, especially during this pandemic. You know, there was a lot of people who
it's recession-proof money.
It's recession-proof money, fellas, and I knew investors who would be like, I don't mess with Section 8. Nah, man, I don't do that. You know what? I mean, the checks kept rolling in, even when I had my people who were regular working, and they were like, oh, I got laid off this month. that Section 8s continue to keep hitting. So I mean, during situations like this, absolutely, Section 8 definitely was a great investment tool for me.
Yeah. Wayne, let me ask you a question. You on a lot of social media?
I'm on social media, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like, today on social media, there's a lot of, real estate investors and stuff like that. And there's just so much misinformation out there. Do you give lectures or do you give seminars to anybody that may be interested in learning the real estate business?
Well, great question. Currently, I'm actually setting up my office. I have like a office in one of my properties, and we're setting up an area where we're going to provide one-on-one counseling for people that are interested in learning how to invest in real estate. But also, I'm also setting up the way that I'm building up partnerships with anyone that wants to invest with me and my company.
Okay.
So if you look at my shirt, I mean, like, this is kind of like something that I agree with wholeheartedly. We need to start aligning, So it's like us just putting money together, or putting our resources together, and just building a strong foundation by just, and it's when we align with each other, it's less work that we all got to do,
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what I've been preaching, is getting people more involved and getting people comfortable with real estate. But also, hey, if you're out there and you're ready, feel like you're ready, let's talk about it and let's build something together.
Wayne, did the Army, your military experience, help you at any? And if it did, where did it help you at with regards to getting started in your, as a homeowner and and renting in your real estate business?
Oh, absolutely. While I was serving in the military, you learn your disciplines. And also was kind of good with me when I started in the military. I kind of learned how to save money. Basically putting money away, and I'm talking about as age 17, 18. I mean, I learned how to discipline myself to save enough money to where if it's something that I wanted to get, I saved enough money for it. So the military definitely taught me that. Working in uniform services, you build relationships with people, particularly in the fire department. The fire department, it is a brotherhood. So you build close relationships with people, and those close personal relationships can turn into business relationships. So a few of my guys who I worked with, we've invested in properties down here in Atlanta together. We currently have 3 projects going on. So absolutely, military, uniform services, building those relationships, it definitely helped me in my real estate career.
So Wayne, let me ask you a question. So people that you now, you're boots on the ground, you're in Atlanta, not in New York anymore. So the people that want to invest in other cities, what are the pros and cons you think you should tell people, and how would they go? If somebody wanted to go to Wichita, Kansas, and to say, listen, I got me and my guys together, what would you tell them to do? First things.
Well, the first thing I would say is, if you're going to invest somewhere and it's not in your home city or where you live, you want to do your research. I invest all over, but I invest with doing my homework about that particular area that I'm going to invest in. And it really doesn't take a whole lot of research for what you can do. I'll tell anybody, first of all, if you can't, well, first of all, you have to at least go visit the city. You kind of look at the area and say, okay, this is a decent area where, okay, looks like it's getting gentrified. Look like there's people moving in. There's jobs. There's great jobs in the area.
Transportation.
What access you have to transportation? What kind of transportation is there? Those are the basics. If you're going to invest out of a city that's not your own, and you're going to be remote. Jobs. What kind of jobs are or what kind of jobs are coming in? What kind of jobs are there? How's the transportation? Is it good public transportation? Is it access to the interstate? Those are the basic. Schools. What kind of school systems are in that area? These are things you can actually just look online and find out. You don't necessarily need to go there and do that. But those are the basics when you're looking for a property.
And I tell people this is why the census is so important. companies look at the census to figure out if they're gonna build business in the areas. How you just said, schools, business is gonna come, stuff like that. So with the research, I tell people the census is super important for stuff like this.
Dewayne, there's one other thing.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry about that.
Sorry. Now, a lot of things, no problem. Another thing is that information is public now. You can just do a Google search, or you can go to a city's website and find out what kind of projects that they're putting out there. If you see that they're building a Walmart, or they're building a Sam's Club, or an Amazon, those are jobs, right? So, or whatever. And the city has the plans. They know this stuff 5 years in advance. It's all public record. You can go look it up. When you see that, then you'll say, okay, I want to buy a house right in that neighborhood, because you know why? Somebody who's going to be working at one of those companies is going to need a place to stay. They're going to need to rent. If they're moving, they're going to need a place to rent for a couple of years before they even buy. So I'm going to invest right there. It's the easiest thing in the world, and it's all right there for you to find out.
I wanted to ask a question about a different segment of your career. In the late 90s, the federal government sent a probe to New York regarding the FDNY. And it was interesting because they said the minorities weren't really represented. So they wanted to just see it from a federal standpoint. So we used to have this thing thinking that it would be just, our fire department was heavily Italian and heavily Irish and things. And it just seemed like it was a lot of nepotism and things like that. You getting into that, because I think it's a great job, especially for more young Black men and women to look into. People don't have an issue with the fire department like they do the police. People actually love the fire department, but it doesn't seem like we're as represented. What were some of the things that got you to go into it? And did you face any of those challenges?
Oh, great question. Absolutely. I came in to the fire department in 2000. Well, at first I was supposed to go in 2001, but then 9/11 happened. And so I stayed over at the NYPD medical examiners after 9/11. And then I transferred over to fire, but I got into the job in 2002. What you're talking about was they had a federal, it was a lawsuit being brought on from what was the Black Organization of Firefighters, which is the Vulcan Society, which I'm a member. I'm still a current member of, and they just were basically saying that, hey, that the job needed to diversify and hire more minorities. And it did. And what happened is that we ended up putting out a big push. I know that I was a part of it, in which we did a big recruitment drive, just going out. I mean, I hear some of you guys are from Long Island. A lot of firefighters are on Long Island, if you guys know that.
Yeah.
So we used to go out there. Yeah. Shout out to my boy, Cameron Peak. He's the chief, and Roosevelt. He was the chief of Roosevelt Fire Department. And me and him worked together in Harlem. And but we used to go out every day, man, just pushing this recruitment and trying to get more brothers and sisters on the job. It was massive. The numbers when I came on, it was like 10,000 firefighters on the job. Less than 300 were African American, and less than I think women. I think it was maybe like 13 females on the job, 13 African American females on a job of about 11,000 people. Yeah.
Wow.
Fast forward now, and I've been out of the job going on 10 years now. I think the numbers are at about, even though it's not, it could be a lot better, but the numbers, I think we're at about 1,000 African Americans on the job. And I think it's almost about 200 females. So I mean, like, they did have to have a lawsuit, but the push worked. It's working. The numbers could be better, but it's definitely working.
Right. Okay. Great.
Yeah, I remember Vulcan Society as well, man. And you almost got me back then too. I came that close to checking it out. Then my father talked to me. Says, "Well, that's really good. They pay real well and anything." But he said, "But how do you like running into a burning building?"
That was my issue.
And I thought about it. I said, Yeah, you know, I don't know. Every money, every dollar ain't a good dollar. I don't think, man.
It's not too many black people that's comfortable when running into a burning building.
Yeah. Maybe
that was my issue with it.
I just want to check. I
don't. So Wayne, also like when people start to do like they say like say brothers are getting together, they want to invest in a property. How important is knowing your contractor and finding contractors stuff like that? How important is that?
Oh man, contractors and knowing your contractor, man, is probably one of the most key things into investing in real estate. Having a great contractor who knows what they're doing and is going to show up and help you get the project done. I mean, it took me a long time to, and I'm still doing it. I still evaluate contractors to this day, but it took me a while to manage my contractors. Sometimes I do the contractor myself and hire people to do a project, because the most important thing is when you start a project, particularly a rehab, the most important thing is that you cannot stop. You have to finish that project. And whether rain, sleet, or snow, this contractor doesn't show or whatever, you have to continue to do that project. So you got to make sure that you got enough, your resources, your finances are in order, but you also got to make sure you got multiple contractors on deck. One falls short, you got to be able to go grab and pick up another. So that's the most important thing in this real estate thing, is having good contractors and workers. Absolutely.
So Wayne, years ago, I was actually looking at a property, and I'm to this day, I kind of feel like I didn't jump on it when I should have, but I know why I didn't. You mentioned the contractors. This would be a remote property. How did you find? And I know that you do this. How do you find good contractors in remote areas? How do you get them to do the work for you? And how do you do property management as well? In areas like this? How do you find out how to do that? When you're not in the area. When you're not in the area.
Yeah. Well, what I do is that, and I'm fortunate because I am retired. I can actually go to that particular location, and I could just, vet, kind of go on Angie's List, go on Craigslist, go on, I think it's called Home Advisors. That's another site that I use. And you'll find a list of contractors, of people who can do everything. I hang out at Home Depot a lot, and you hand out your cards and say, hey, you see people, vehicles ride by. Oh, here's my car. Hey, can I get a business card from you? So when you're out of town, you want to build those relationships, but there's also avenues that you can find online. Like I said, you have those home advisor sites, Angie's List, Craigslist, people that are contractors that they're advertising their services. You go there and you just negotiate. You know what you want. You negotiate prices with them on what you need. And then that's how you end up building that relationship with your contractors out of state, But particularly, like I said, I like to get on the ground and meet people, but sometimes that's not always possible. But going online and looking these people up, and you can check their rating. That's another thing too. You can check their business rating, how they're doing, what projects they did they run out on the job. That's good for those online web searches as well.
You've had good experiences with regard to that, because one of the things I'm just speaking for myself, I would wonder, and it's hard to do business with a person when you don't shake their hand, you can't really meet them, So how do you manage that? Do you just go strictly off of what you're seeing and call them up, and how do you build a rapport with them? Or I'm sure you call them, but how do you build that sort of rapport? What are the questions you're asking? How do you handle that?
Well, one thing that I do like to do if I have a major project that I want a major rehab, and sometimes this is particularly this works out of state, but I do it in state, is that I might have them come and do a smaller job. Like I may say, hey, you know what? Come knock. I got a bathroom I need you to come knock out for me, or something not too major, not a heavy thing, just so I can see how they are business wise. Do they show up on time? Have they done a good job for that? And then I'll be able to evaluate. Then I'll be able to take that evaluation and apply it to maybe a major job that I have. So if you can't handle the small stuff I give you, I'm sure not going to give you a major rehab that I'm going to be spending almost $100K on. And now, you got me jammed up. So no, you got to evaluate these guys. The handshaking thing is important. Like I said, a small job here, you did good on that one, I'll give you something else, So it's baby steps, but you can evaluate people. Like I said, you can go online and see if I see somebody with some bad reviews or somebody like that, I really try not to mess with them.
Yeah, Dewayne, what kind of advice would you give to a person that's not really liquid for a lot of cash? How would you recommend to them that they start up?
Great question, brother. There's so many ways to get started in real estate. I mean, you don't have to start off as an investor, which is kind of like at the top of the chain of the real estate game, as a real estate investor. You can start off wholesaling. I ended up
explain
wholesale. Explain wholesale.
Okay. Wholesaling in a nutshell is basically when you go out and you may find a property that's not listed on the MLS. All right. You find that, say it's your somebody family member has passed away and they want to get rid of this property or they want to sell it. What you do is you go and you take that contract, you'll sign that contract. You say, hey, look, I think in some states it's 30 days. I don't want to go crazy on it because I haven't done wholesaling in a while, but I think you got 30 days for that contract. You get it on the contract. Then what you do is you try to assign that contract to somebody. You basically look for an investor like me and say, hey, so say the family agreed to sell you the house for $20,000. Right? You turn around and say to me, yo, I got a house I got a house for sale for $30,000. All right. So you basically bringing me deals, but you putting your money on top of it. Now, somebody like me, I know you're a wholesaler. I know you marked it up a little bit, but I ain't have to go look for it. And I know what my numbers are. You see, because in real estate, your numbers don't lie. So if I know my numbers are good, even at that 30,000, I'll probably shoot you down 5,000. But I know you got to get your money. So, but that's wholesaling as a nutshell. Just putting a house under contract and finding somebody else to take that house and assign that contract to. But you getting your money in the middle. You know what I'm saying? You put a little sugar on top for yourself.
And so in the finance, how do people that Rod these questions about people don't have enough liquid? Well, how can they go about getting financing?
Well, there's different ways of getting financing. You can go traditional, which is kind of like the harder way to go. Especially if your credit's not right, and if your credit's not right, traditional loans are sometimes really not. They're not going to work for somebody in real estate. However, they have hard money. I was just speaking to a young lady today about it. It's hard money where they're going to charge you a higher rate, but you kind of get to get your feet wet in getting that property. I don't use a lot of hard money, but I have. But for somebody getting into it who's not as liquid, you can get a hard money, or you can align yourself with somebody that does have the money to get the property. You can put sweat equity into it, where if you don't have the money, you got the sweat. So you can go ahead and say, yo, I got the contractors, or I know how to do work myself. I love to get somebody like that who say, hey, look, Dewayne, get this property for me, but I got people who can fix it up. I'll take care of them, and then we can take this property, we can flip it or do whatever. So for people who don't have money, that's typically or who are don't have a heavy liquid, that's the way to go.
I think Brad wrote something in the chat. I'm not sure. So Jamie, can you bring it up so Dewayne can see it?
Yeah, put together a projection model, which shows they have a potential income. Yeah, the property will help you. Is that true? Have you seen something like that?
Yeah. Well, you can put up a projection model where you want to kind of like say he's kind of like saying, what would this property generate before you get into the deal? So you'll know what it's kind of like knowing what your numbers are even way before you even put that property on the contract. that's what I'm saying about your numbers are not, the numbers don't lie to you. You know what the numbers are off the rip. When you stick to your numbers in real estate, it's really hard to lose money if you know your numbers. So absolutely, you can put a projection and just say, hey, look, this is what this is. This is how this property is going to, this is how this property, we can get a return on this property. And you stick to your numbers, it's not going to, it ain't going to fail you. It's never failed me as long as I stuck to my numbers.
Wait, I got two questions for you. How many properties do you currently own? And then how many do you own with a team, and how many own separate by yourself?
Okay, I have 2 properties with a partner, and well, when I call properties, I like to say doors because I got multi.
Yeah, I know.
So I got 2 properties with a partner. I just sold 3. Those were mine. Those 3 I liquidated. I was doing a liquidation in 2020, and currently, right now, I have 20 doors for myself, and I have 2 with a partner.
Okay.
Explain to everybody what doors mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good question.
Okay, great question. Doors are just units that are generating you income. So I have a 4-plex. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I got 4 doors, 4 tenants in that. I got a duplex. I got 2 duplexes. So that's another 4 doors. So that's 1, 2, 3. Those are units. Those are basically, doors are just units. I have single family homes. I count them as doors as well. All together, it comes to 20 doors.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, and those doors, how many doors come into place is when you looking for like a property manager, because the more doors you have, the better deal you're going to be able to get.
Absolutely. So when you're dealing with a property manager, I just got rid of my property manager because I started to liquidate. So it was like I didn't need to pay them. It's particularly the properties that I have, and being that I'm in Atlanta, I wasn't in Atlanta full time over the last year. I was up in New York for about 7 months, and I had a property manager. So I liquidated some of the properties, and I didn't need the property manager. But basically, the more doors you have, the less, the better off, the better deal you can get with your property manager. So if you got 100, if you got 1 door, they're gonna charge you $100, to manage that property. But if you got 100 doors, you can be like, hey, look, I'll give you 50, $75 a door, but you're getting all 100 doors. You're getting to manage all 100 of my properties. So typically, a property manager ain't gonna turn that down, because you're giving them 100 properties to manage.
Yeah. So my final question to you. So, from your bio and everything, it says that you have a high interest in cryptocurrency. And I know this big thing like these NFT things or art is going on now, and those kind of investments, and whiskey, I believe, too. Can you tell people about that? Those 3?
Yeah. Now, my investment thing, other than real estate, I've just started investing in the stock market and in crypto. This has only been going on for about a year. It was because of my real estate that I was able to actually dive into investing in the stock market, and I've been doing some day trading over the last year. So I'm up. I'm not as up as I should be, but I'm up. Crypto, that just started about maybe 3 months ago, where I started investing in. I'm still not knowing things about it, but I'm like, hey, too many people are making a lot of money, so I got to get in there. You can sideline, or you can get in there, and you can sideline. You can learn. You'll learn better if your money's involved, right? Yeah. So so that's what I did. I said, let me drop some money into this Bitcoin, and also the other thing, Ethereum. I put Ethereum. Yeah. I put some money in that, and trust me, I'm watching it every day. So, like I said, when you got your bread involved, you get involved.
Yeah.
So that's what I quick.
And
you're gonna learn quick. And then with the art thing, I've been going for about a year with art. I invest with it's this company called Masterworks, where you buy shares of art. And it's a great platform because it's art that you would never be able to afford. Like me, a person like me, I would never be able to buy a Picasso, or a Mona Lisa. But you can invest as a group in these pieces of artwork when they come out, and you basically sell them like shares the way you do on the stock market, but you have to let it mature, you know? So that's my main art portfolio. I just bought a few other pieces for myself from some local artists and some other people, but that's my art thing as far as my art portfolio. And my whiskey, me and my brother, we invested in a whiskey company called Whiskey and Wealth, and they're based out of Scotland. And they sell barrels of whiskey, of aged whiskey, and you buy it and they hold it for you from anywhere between, you can't get it, and you can't get your whiskey for 3 years. So you got to leave it there for 3 years. And then they broker your whiskey for you to other dealers. So the longer they hold it, the longer they hold it, the more expensive it gets. And then they broker it for you. Or you can say, hey, look, send me my barrels after 5 years. You pay the shipping fee. They send you your barrels of whiskey, and you can go out, tag it, scan it, and sell it in liquor stores yourself.
Dewayne, let me ask you this question before you go, because a lot of people want to know this. You lived in the South, you lived in the Southwest, and you lived in New York. Do you have a top 5 rapper? That's what we want to know. Your top 5 rappers. You got to do it. That's what the people want to know. They know your expertise, but you lived all over. You lived in Europe. We want to know top 5 MCs of all time, not in any particular order.
Not in any particular order. Okay. You know, gotta go with Chris, KRS. Gotta go with KRS.
That's real.
You gotta go with Nas. I gotta give it to Nas. Jay, you gotta give it to Jay-Z.
My man.
You know, just because I'm biased and because I'm pretty cool with him, I like Jadakiss.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
You know,
Jada always Jada's a phenomenal. He's a beast.
Yeah.
But, first, people want to know about the whiskey again. Somebody put a question before you go. Can you bring up the whiskey company and how can they find it and stuff like that? Do the investment.
Okay, yeah, it's called Whiskey and Wealth. I actually got them right here. It's called Whiskey and Wealth. It's in whiskey. It's an investment club. There. It's called Whiskey and Wealth. It's an investment club based out of Scotland. I can hold this up right here. I guess maybe it'll be a little bit better. Whiskey and Wealth. They're based out of Scotland, and basically you're just investing in whiskey. It's an investment. It takes a while to mature. It's not something like you're gonna do overnight. You have to allow the whiskey to age. My brother's a big whiskey connoisseur. So we were like, we always buying whiskey. So we might as well go and find somewhere we can buy whiskey and basically make, it'll be our own whiskey. They age it for you, they barrel it for you, you bottle it and sell it as your own when you get it, or they broker the barrels for you. So you can get a barrel whiskey that have about 200 liters and they'll sell it for you.
Wow. So nobody's invested in Shan Pipple or nothing like that, or no Ripple. no Ripple investments, man. Come on, man. You know how we like our fruity drinks in the hood.
No Ripple. Oh man, I don't know, no Ripple, but yeah.
Dewayne, before you go, like, how can people find you? If brothers want to invest, sisters want to invest with you, man, how can they get at you, brother?
Yo, just my name right there on the screen at Airplane Wayne. That's my company here, APW 107 Enterprises LLC, or at Airplane Wayne.
That's Instagram, right?
Instagram, Facebook. I have a Twitter. It's all at Airplane Wayne. All at Airplane Wayne. And my company, APW 107 LLC. I'm based out. My company's out of Atlanta, but I'm investing all over the place, man.
That's what's up, brother. Yo, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for giving all the information to the people. Knowledge is power, brother. We love you, brother. Thanks for being safe, man, out there. And let's get to this bag together.
Absolutely. Definitely, fellas.
Yeah.
Nice seeing y'all, man. Definitely. I appreciate the interview. One love.